The Witch in the Wood by T.H. White, Chapter 31. The May sunlight shone next day with merry cheer, and all the small foils were making merry as usual outside the castle. Inside, however, there was a scene of gloom. King Morgause had caught Sir Gramor and Sir Palomides in the great hall, and she was working off a little steam. It was one of those infrequent occasions on which she threw off all forms of impersonation and appeared as herself, in pure naturalness. Sir Palomides was only the tutor of the boys. As such, he was no more than an employee, and could be treated as she pleased. She did not mind whether Sir Gramor was present to hear his friend degraded. Indeed, she was delighted that he should be present. The queen took an unnatural pleasure in raving before the both of them, for thus she herself, and Sir Gramor into the bargain, were shamed along with her victim. The reason was, of course, that she had been forced to harbor another woman in the castle. It would have been impossible to turn away the Queen of Flanders' daughter, and this a woman not only of equal rank to herself, but also one successful in the supreme insult of having King Pellinore for a lover. How could a self-respecting witch retain her seat as the center of the universe in circumstances like these? Such, however, were not the reasons adduced by the queen to explain her tantrums at the moment. "Well, Sir Palomides," she was neighing, "and what are you going to do about it now?" "I don't know, your majesty," said Sir Palomides miserably, twisting his fingers together with a cracking noise, which he had learned in his native land to be specific for keeping off devils. "A nice mess!" screamed the queen. "A nice mess you have got us in! What are you but a hired man? What have you been doing about the education of my small children? Dithering about in fancy dress indeed? I shall report you to King Lot. How dare you, sirrah? Am I to spend the rest of my life cooped up in this dreary castle? What are my poor darlings to do? Are they never to go for runs and walks and all that any more? Answer me, will you?" "Yes," said Sir Palomides. "No." "Yes, no, and what do you mean by that? I suppose this Princess of Flanders, or whatever she chooses to call herself, has got to stay with us forever, and all these doting nights, I suppose, it is to sleep in the bowling green and trample down all the roses, is it? And what are we going to eat when the stores run out? Our boots, I suppose? Now then, Sir Palomides, don't stand there like a pig. You're a fool, Sir Palomides. Do you understand? A fool." "Yes," said the pagan. "A low fool." The disconsolate knights found King Pellinore and his lady sitting on the battlements of the south tower, looking out to sea. Piggy's head was reposting on the king's shoulder, and the king's right ear was pressed on the top of her head. They were making a cooing noise. "Ahem!" said Sir Gramor tactfully, shuffling, coughing, stamping his feet, and banging his sword against the stones. "This way, Palomides. I think they may be up here." "Do you really think so?" shouted Sir Palomides in a loud, unnatural voice. "Positive!" roared Sir Gramor. "I think I can see them now." The king removed his ear and turned round impatiently. "Now then, you two," he said, "what do you want?" "Oh, there you are, Pellinore. We were wondering where you were." "Well, I'm here," said the king. "What? So now you can go away." "But the beast," began Sir Gramor. "My dear fellow," said the king firmly, "I can't attend to all that now," and he replaced his ear on the top of Piggy's head. Merlin was sunning himself by the well in the great court, with his boots beside him and his feet in a bucket of water. He had an absent-minded expression, because he was trying with all his might to remember that something of vital importance which was due to happen so soon. "Well," he inquired, "what's the matter now?" "Excuse us, Merlin, but it is about the questing beast. That woman Morgause is in a frightful pet about it." "Are you sure it is about the beast?" "Certain, my dear fellow. You see, it has us besieged." "We are dressed up," explained Sir Palomides miserably, "as a sort of beast ourselves, respected sir, and it saw us coming into the castle. There were signs, of ardent affection. Now this creature will not go away, because she believes her mate to be inside, and it is of great unsafety to lower the same drawbridge." You had better explain it to her, said Merlin comfortably. Go up to the battlement and explain the mistake. Do you think she will understand? After all, said Merlin, she is a magic beast. It seems quite possible. The beast was still sitting on her boulder when they looked out from the gatehouse. She was scratching her ear with her right hind leg, but she noticed them immediately and looked up with a hopeful expression. Go on, whispered Sir Grummore. You begin. Sir Palomides coughed and raised his voice. Beg pardon, he shouted. Attention, please. A small explanation, if you don't mind. There isn't any beast, bawled Sir Grummore, coming to his assistance. They looked down at the animal anxiously, wondering how she would take it. She took it with obvious disbelief. We shall have to explain, whispered Sir Palomides. It was us, howled Sir Grummore. We dressed up as it, to amuse King Pellinore. There wasn't any beast at all. The questing beast turned scornfully round and went on scratching her ear. I say, Merlin, look here. What are you putting your boots on for? I have to go, said Merlin absently. I have to do something somewhere else, but I can't remember what it is. Meanwhile, I shall have to go on with my walking tour. I am to meet my master, Blaise, in Northumberland, so that he can write down the chronicles of the battle, and then we are to have a little wild goose hunting, and after that, well, I can't remember. But Merlin, the beast, wouldn't believe. Never mind, replied the magician vaguely. Can't stop, sorry. Apologize to Queen Morgause for me, will you, and thank her for her hospitality. My dear chap, the beast is outside. How do you propose to get out? Oh, the usual way. The famous nigromancer stood up and began slowly to revolve upon his toes, preparatory to vanishing. Merlin, wait a bit. Merlin reappeared again for a moment and said in a cross voice, Well, what is it? The beast won't believe us. What are we to do? Merlin frowned. Psychoanalyze her, he said, eventually, and began to spin. But Merlin, wait. How do we do this thing? The usual method. But what is it? They cried in despair. The magician had completely disappeared, only his voice remained. Oh, just find out what her dreams are and so on, it said. Explain the facts of life, you know, but not too much of Freud. And that's the end of chapter 31.